Hi all, I welcome you all for this wonderful video lecture series on problem solving using C++. Today we are going to discuss about the classes and object. In the last class, actually we had discussed OOPS concept. In OOPS concept, we have discussed that class, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, data encapsulation, data hiding, and so on. Right. So among the concepts today, we are discuss about what is class and object, how we are declaring or defining the class, and how we are using objects. Right. Before having this lecture series, I'll introduce myself. I am Shankar. I'm working as assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at RMD Engineering College, Chennai. So obviously, I said today actually we are going to discuss about classes and objects. Let us see what is class. Classes are the blueprint for the objects. It is a user-defined data type which holds own data members and member functions. Right? You need to remember these 3 points. Right? So classes are blueprint for the objects, and it is a user-defined data type which holds its own data members and member functions, which can be accessed and used by creating instance of that class. If you want to, for example, class is a user-defined data type. I said I have defined classes, and that class holds some data members and member functions. If you want to access those data members and member functions, you should create an instance of that class. The data and functions within the classes are called members, class members actually. The data and functions within the class are called the members of the class. Simply we can say this is class members. The data are called as data members, functions are called as member functions, right? If any data you have defined under class, it can be called as data members. If you defined any functions inside the class, it is called as member functions. Generally, we call it as class members. For example, if you consider a class, namely car, there may be many cars with different names and brands, but all of them will share some common properties like four wheels. It's common for all the type of cars. Speed limit, maybe. If you consider 60, maybe a speed limit for all. And mileage range. These are all common properties for all the classes. So here, car is the class and wheels, speed limits, mileage are their properties. Let us see how we are defining class. A class is defined using the keyword called class. Right? You should remember this. This is very important. A class is defined using keyword called class. This is actually keyword. Class must be all letters or small letters. Keyword in the sense we should not change anything. We should use the same word everywhere. That is actually keyword. We don't have any rights to change the word. That is actually keyword. Right? So a class is defined using the keyword class followed by the name of the class. Right? You just see here class. This is the syntax for creating syntax in the sense general form. General form for creating a class. Class name. Class is the keyword. This class is the keyword. And next, this is class name. This name of the class. Whatever you want to define a class, that name we can define here. And next, the body of the class is defined inside the curly brackets and terminated by the semicolon at the end. It means that this open curly brace indicates it's open your class and it indicates closing of your class. The close bracket curly brace must be ends with the semicolon, right? So this is your class definition. Inside we can define the data members and member functions. right? So here we have one more property that is called access specifier. The access specifier may be a private, public, or protected. We'll see a separate video what is private, public, and protected, how which helps you to define the class data members and member functions, that we'll see later. So now you just remember the access specifiers are either private, public, or protected, right? So generally this is the class syntax, right? So what we need to remember while defining the class, it starts with class, a keyword, followed by the class name. Class name is a user defined name, or we can call it as an identifier. Whatever the rules we have studied in the last video lectures, that should be followed for defining class names. And the class definition is identified with the open curly brace and close curly brace. The closed curly brace must be ends with the semicolon. In between this, we can define the data members and member functions. These data member and member functions may have access specifiers. Under access specifiers, we are specifying these data members and member functions. It tells the scope of the data members, right? We will have a deep discussion on other video lecture regards access specifier. Now you just remember private, public, or protected, or the access specifiers. So this is the simple example for defining a class. So here the class name is car. You just see the syntax what I said. Class is the keyword. We should not change anything in this, right? Keyword. So you just see here class is a keyword. What's the next one? Followed by class name. It's a user defined name, whatever we can give. So here I'm creating a class for car. That's why I have given here the class name is car. And next what is here? If we should open brace and close curly brace. So this is open curly brace and this is close curly brace. Close curly brace must ends with the semicolon. In between, we need to define the data members. What are the data members we can define under access specifier? We need to define, right? So what are the types of access specifiers are there? Private, public, and protected. These are the access specifiers. So here I have used public. We can use anyone. It is not means that we should always use only one access specifier inside the class. We can use different types of access specifier for different data members and different member function. That is up to our concept, right? So under public, I have defined three data members, that is brand, model, year. Brand is the type of string and model is the type of string and year is the type of int. So we have defined three data members. We can call there as attributes also, right? So three data members. So what we have defined? Data members we have defined. See here, the next one is member functions. Here our class does not have any member functions. It is not means that we should have data member, we should have member functions. It is optional. If you want, you can define. If you don't want, you can omit. That is no problem. But for a simple example, we have created a car with some set of attributes. So the class name is car, and the public access specifier we have defined three attributes called brand, model, year. Brand and models are the type is string, and year is the type of integer. The next one is object. Object is instance of a class. Object is instance of a class. You just remind this, right? Object is instance of class. You just remember here what we have discussed, right? What they said. The class is a user defined data type which holds own data members, member functions, which can be accessed and used by creating instance of that class. So what is the instance of class? Instance of a class is object, and object is the instance of class, right? And next, objects are the basic runtime entity in an object oriented system. They may represent a person, a place, a bank account, a table of data, or any item that the program has to handle. Objects take up space in the memory and have an associated address like a record in Pascal or a structure in C. When a program is executed, the objects interact by sending message to one another. For example, if a customer and account are two objects in a program, then the customer object may send message to the account of object requesting for the bank balance. How we are declaring object? Because what we discussed here is, if we have defined a class with the data members and member functions which are accessed by the instance of the class. What is the instance of the class? Object. So if we want to use this object, we should declare, right? When you just see here, when class is defined, no memory is allocated, right? For example, if you create this class, while creating a class, no memories are allocated for brand data member, no memory is allocated for model data member, no memory is allocated for year data member. That is actually our first point. When class is defined, right, we have defined a class this and it has 3 data members, but while defining this class, no memory space is allocated. But when it is instantiated, memory is allocated. Instantiated in the sense, what is instance? What is instance? Instance is a object. Class instance is a object. While creating object, the memory is allocated, right? See here, the object is created to use the data and access functions defined in the class, right? When you are creating object, that time the memory is allocated for the data members. Also, the object is created to use the data and access functions defined in the class. Okay, let us see how we are creating objects. How we are creating objects. This is the general syntax or general form for creating objects. So first we should give class name of the class. As of previous example, what is our class name? The class name is car. The class name is car. So as per the general form, what we can call here is car is the class name. And next, followed by object name. We can call create object as car1. I'm simply writing here, right? So what happened now? We have created one object, car C1. See, class name is car. Now object name is C1, right? So this is the simple example. Let us see. We know that the hash include iostream.h. Because of C++, we have used hash include iostream.h header file for basic input output stream operations. So here class is the keyword. The class name is car and open brace, close brace ends with the semicolon. Inside we are defining some properties with the access specifier. Here I have used public as access specifier. Here you need to remember one more thing. Here they have mentioned here P as capital. It should not be capital. It all, whether it is private or public or protected, all must be small letters, right? Don't use it as capital letters, right? So public, under public we have defined the 3 properties. One is brand and another one is model and another one is year. Brand and models are the type of strings and year is the type of integer, right? So class is defined. What I said, while creating a class, no memory space is allocated for this data members, right? Next, in main we have defined object. What is the general form for defining a class? Class name, object name, right? Once again, you just remember the syntax, class name and object name. So what's our class? Class name is car. The class name is car. So car is class name and followed by object name. Object name is obj1. While creating this object, right now we have created object. While creating the object, automatically what happened? This data member have allocated for memory space. Now it has some memory space. Brand have some memory space. Model has some memory space. Int has some memory space. Now after creating the object, now we are assigning values to the data members. How we are accessing the data members? In the sense, object name dot member name. So what is object name? obj1. Object name dot member name. What is the first member? Brand. So I have used here brand. So I have given some values to the brand, that is BMW. Similarly, model, object one dot object name dot member name. What is the second member? Model. Model is equal to x5. Next, object one dot year is 1999. For creating object, the syntax is class name, object name. Suppose if you want to create more than one object, we can use comma to separate every object. For example, if you want to create 3 objects with the car, so what's the class name? Car. Car is the class name. Then C1 is the first object, C2 is the second object, C3 is the third object. We can close. If you want, you can use n number of objects. C1, C2, C3. These are three objects, and each object will be separated by using commas. This is another possibility for creating multiple objects. Okay, so now after creating the object, if you want to access the data member, class member, you should use object name. For example, C1 dot member name. What is the member? Brand, model, and so on. Right, whatever you want you can use. So the general syntax for accessing or accessing class members or data member is object name dot member name. Right, so for initializing values, object name dot member name is equal to value, whatever the value you want to use, that you should you just see here the difference. Here we have used double quotes for these data members for assigning values, but here it is not there because these twos are declared as string variables. That's why we have enclosed double quotes. Here the year is integer, defined as integer. That's why we have used number here. If you want to print the values, what happens? Cout statement. We know that cout statement, which helps you to print the values from the variable or prints strings, right? So obj1 dot brand. What's the value for brand? BMW. So the first output is BMW. And next say space. This helps you to given the space. And next obj1 dot model. What's the model value? What's the model value? X5. So the next output is X5. And next space. This helps you to give the space. And next obj1 dot year. What's the value of year? 1999. That is your output. Right? I hope you understood the basic concepts, how we are creating a class and how we are defining object and how we are accessing class members using objects and how we are initializing values to the data member. That is actually we have discussed with this video lecture. Thank you guys for watching this lecture series up to this, and thank you all.